Hey guys, welcome back. It is week 18, I believe, and now we are starting May. Today is May 1st, and there's so much that comes along with May in my own personal life, but in the world, and everything that's happening right now is, factoring in. However, there's one thing that is kind of unignorable to me and everyone under this roof when May begins, and that is that this is kind of like Geek Week. So tomorrow would be the first Saturday in May, and every single year, except this one, because of coronavirus, the first Saturday in May is free comic book day. So if you have a local comic book shop that you like to go to, you could go in on the first Saturday of May and get literally free comic books. All of the different comic book companies get in on it, and they make their own versions of comic books for the day, and it's a really fun thing to do, especially if you have kids. But then if you're a comic book collector, of course there's, it's like the one time you can get these little comics, and there's of course a limited supply. So whatever it is, it turns out to be a fun event for anyone that's into comic books, which does include the Rivera family. The other thing that comes up, and they're always very close together, and sometimes they are on exactly the same day, is May 4th. And geeks out there, I don't have to tell you what that is. In fact, it's becoming pretty widely known these days, though there was a time where it was only the true geeks that would whisper these things to each other. It's May the 4th. And what do we all say on May the 4th? May the 4th be with you. It is Star Wars Day. So, with these two things in mind for this week, I said, you know what? This week's prompt is going to be Geek Week. I'm going to give you two choices of what you can write for this week based on these two national events, I guess. So, here are your choices. You can write a superhero story, or you can write a space opera. Now, if you write the space opera, of course you're going to have to begin with a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Those are the only rules that I'm going to set for you. But if you need some more structure, you can't talk about Star Wars, and you can't seem to talk about heroes without talking about the hero's journey. So if you're looking for a structure to follow, you may want to challenge yourself to use the hero's journey to plot out your story. I have had mixed results when using such an immense structure on a short story. But since there are no word limits for this week, I'll say give it a shot, because you should be able to hit all of the parts of the hero's journey. So what are they? Let me bring them up for you. So the hero's journey comes from Joseph Campbell's work, where he studied our modern stories and myths and found a basic pattern that flows throughout Western stories. And he really got a lot of popularity back when Star Wars came out, because the structure that he had created was so clearly embedded within the Star Wars tale, and that's because George Lucas was a huge Joseph Campbell fan. So the hero's journey is a 12-stage process that your protagonist goes through from beginning to end, and if you follow all of the stages, they go from a place where they live in their ordinary world, and they transform into the hero they were meant to be, and they go into a new place, and they experience all different things. And whether we recognize it or not, as readers and as viewers, when we consume story, if we were raised in a Western culture, we are very familiar with these sort of beats that come through our stories. So this is why these types of structures are wildly popular with writers, with filmmakers, with creators of all types, simply because not necessarily that you want to write by a formula in any way, but if you're writing something and something doesn't seem to flow and you can't find it, chances are, if you go back to this structure and you find where your story meets each of the stages, you will more than likely find that you are missing one or you went too quickly through one. And then that's a huge help to getting the story to its fullest and best writing. So, the hero's journey, the 12 steps, I've written them down here because for the life of me, I still can't memorize them, even though I have them. I know what they look like and feel like when I'm reading and writing a story. Is first the ordinary world. You begin with your protagonist in whatever it is that they have always done. So if you think back to Star Wars, when we begin, we see Luke Skywalker, in his aunt and uncle's house on, just nothing, just an ordinary farm boy. Nothing very exciting about his life at all, although he has dreams. Then there is the call to adventure. Something changes in your hero's life that now makes them, when someone comes and says, you got to leave all this, you got to change. And it doesn't have to be so grandiose as all that, because you can have a hero whose call to adventure is just to try something new. I think of a YA protagonist, right? That's somebody who's maybe just living their life the same way all the time, and their call to adventure is to try out for some club at their school. It could be that simple. Then there is step 3 of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, is the refusal of the call. And typically this is because no one likes change, right? So the protagonist will come up and say, no, I don't need that, or I don't want to do that, or here are all the reasons why that's a really bad idea. Whatever it is, you have your protagonist struggle with the choice of answering that call to action. In that space, we meet the mentor. That's a stage 4. And, usually that will help make the decision, but also they are going to be a character that is alongside your protagonist through much of the journey, showing them this new world and what is in that call to adventure. Stage 5 is crossing the threshold. So this is now stepping out, making that choice, saying, yeah, I'm going to answer that call and I'm going to step into something new and strange, and I'm going to change a bit already. Stage 6 is the test allies and enemies, and that is essentially where all of your action starts to happen. Your protagonist is going to be challenged. They're going to meet people that are on the journey with them, so those would be their allies, and of course they're going to be meeting various antagonists that are going to try to block them from their forward progression. Stage 7 is approach to the inmost cave. Now, many times when people run through the hero's journey and we get to this stage, they will show a video clip of Luke Skywalker stepping into the cave with Yoda, sending him in, and it's a literal cave. It's ridiculous. Goes into a literal cave for this stage. But it does not have to be a literal cave. This is basically your protagonist dealing with the true demons and themes that have been sort of holding them back all this time. And so again, for that literal cave scene, Luke goes into a cave and is even there is faced with Darth Vader and all these sort of ghosts of what has been haunting him through this journey, but he also is struggling with his own idea of, is he strong enough to face this foe? And that is the real dive into the inmost cave. It's not the physical vision of his enemy. It is what he's dealing with on the inside. Number 8 is the ordeal. as it sounds. It's like the big deal. It's the thing that is, the big face-off with your antagonist. Or if it's not such a action-based story, it would be the big moment where your protagonist is truly facing off with the thing that has been holding them back from becoming this new person. But this week, since we're doing Geek Week, we're doing hero stories or space opera, chances are your ordeal will be big, crazy deal. Stage 9 is reward and seizing the sword. So there's a victory, and we've gotten the thing. Seizing the sword is like, I'm kind of like Arthurian, we've gotten our sword. And then stage 10 brings us to the road back, which is I've got all the things that I came out of the ordinary world to get. This was what I was going to do, so I've got it. I've got my sword. It is now my time to head on back to sort of end all of this adventure. But chances are on the road back, there are going to be, it's not going to be like that easy. It's not like, oh, I got the sword, let's go home. Again, when you consume enough story, right, you know this point in the story where the hero gets the thing, and you sort of, yay, we won, and then they turn to, go back to their ordinary life, and something else gets in the way, right? So that's this stage of the road back, which leads us to stage 11, which is the resurrection, the conquering of whatever that final obstacle is, which in turn that obstacle also continues to challenge your protagonist, because even though they've won the sword, they're still struggling with some sort of inner thing. The road back should be a point where they really do fully conquer that, And then, like I said, stage 11 is the resurrection. So they've conquered that. And stage 12 is the return with the elixir. So it's the coming home. And again, I guess I'm very Star Wars minded today, but you think of the end of Star Wars where the heroes come home and they're, celebrated, rewarded, and we end off on happily ever after sort of tone to our hero's journey. So we start from an ordinary place and, something calls us out of it. I don't want to go. There's this mentor. Oh, okay, I guess I don't have to go it alone. This person will help me along. And then so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all 12 again. So I will put some links in the doobly-doo there are so many references for the hero's journey. And I mean, it's not just for writers, it's for story analysts. So there is plenty of worksheets created by teachers who are teaching their students story structure that I always find actually incredibly helpful as a writer. So there's a website called Teachers Pay Teachers, where teachers create work for other teachers. But there's so many hero's journey worksheets there that could be used as great templates for filling in your parts of your story. So that is the one bit of structure I will give to you. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with it, but today and this week's challenge it's Geek Week. So you have two choices. You can take that geekdom and run with it and write yourself a superhero story in honor of what is normally Free Comic Book Day. By the way, anyone who is a comic book fan and wondering what's going on with that, Diamond Comics, the Diamond distributors, have said that it is currently postponed indefinitely, but they're looking for a summer event. So just keep on searching out Free Comic Book Day and it should come back, or stay in touch with your local comic book shop and they will for sure let you know. So your one choice, superhero story in honor of Free Comic Book Day, or space opera in honor of Star Wars Day, which is May the 4th. And remember, if you do your space opera, you need to begin it with a long time ago in a galaxy far away. And that is all. One story in 1 week. If that's not enough for you, I did want to mention that it is May, and there is this website called storyaday.org. And they celebrate something called Story a Day May. It's run by Julie Duffy. And if you sign up at storyaday.org, Julie will send you one prompt per day in the entire month of May. So that could be 31 stories for the next 31 days. I've signed up because I love prompts. And having said that, I've already seen today's prompt for May 1st. And it could fit in nicely with the superhero story. So I was pretty excited about that. That may be my story for today. But I'll put a link down in the doobly-doo for Story a Day, but it's simple. It's storyaday.org. It's not just prompts in your inbox. There is also a community around it. There are actually a bunch of writers in the Stop Writing Alone group that are also taking on the Story a Day challenge. So if you want to head on over to Stop Writing Alone on the Facebook group, you can chat about that. But definitely check out Julie's site. And if you do take on the challenge, interact with her blog post where you will find tons of fellow writers. The only other news that I have for this week is that on Thursday, I'm reaching for a book, I interviewed Curtis Honeycutt on the Stop Writing Alone podcast. This book, Good Grammar is the Life of the Party, is out today. See, this is my advanced reader copy. I've had this one for a while, but you can get yours today. Just go online. You can get it either in the paperback or in ebook form. Or you can head over to Curtis's website, which again I'll put on the bottom, but I'm pretty sure it was curtishoneycutt.com. But tomorrow, which is Saturday, so hopefully you're seeing this in time, on Saturday, May 2nd, due to everything that's going on with the coronavirus, Curtis's typical book tour and launch had kind of gotten derailed because he had a lot of in-person events planned that sounded really, really cool. He was going to go to Books and Brews all around his area, but of course, you can't do any of that. So what does an author do? On Saturday, Curtis is going to have a virtual book launch party on his Facebook page, which is Curtis Honeycutt, writer. Again, I'll put the link in the bottom. Starting at 12 p.m. Eastern, he is going to read this entire book. I can't wait. He's got a beer sponsor, so I really can't wait to see if that affects the reading as we go along. But in addition, he's going to be doing a whole bunch of giveaways. I think he said every hour. His wife and kids are going to help out with giveaways from places like Out of Print, and then he has his Word Nerd stickers. I don't have mine right here, which are very cool. And I keep forgetting the name of the candle company. I will definitely put their link below, but it's a candle company that makes book-themed candles. So anyway, it sounds like a cool thing to do. What are you doing anyway this Saturday? We're all stuck inside. Go put on Curtis's Facebook Live and help him throw the Good Grammar party. This book is really funny because it's basically Curtis is a columnist in a lot of local papers known as the Grammar Guy. And so what he has done is compiled a bunch of the columns that he's written, which are really, really quite funny, but also incredibly helpful. So he knows his stuff. It's a great gift, but also writers, why wouldn't you have this awesomely geeky book on your shelf? It's Geek Week. Okay, I'm done. You've got a lot to do. You have to write about a hero, or you have to write about space, and you have to be geeky this week. I mean, that's easy for me. I do that all the time, but I don't know. Is this a new hat for you? Let us know in the comments how it goes, and please share your stories so we can read them. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again next week. Happy writing!